Hi, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. And I have my Fed Pride sign on, which is good. Today I'm going to talk mostly about a email that I saw that I was at a tire shop and the guy pulled out an email and it said Boycott CITGO because it's owned by Hugo Chavez, which it is. So I'm going to talk about that. Before I get into that, I'm going to change the world a little bit. First, I'm going to do my traditional spin of the earth. And I'm going to go over to the Asian continent. And I'm going to take a look at Pakistan. Here's India over here. Here's Pakistan over here. This is the Indus River. And Pakistan's kind of shaped like that. Here's Afghanistan, where we have a small army, but NATO is in there with us. And here's Pakistan over here, and here's Iran. Basically, tomorrow is the election for the Pakistani president. And I've been talking a little bit about that. I've been talking about Musharraf, who's right now both the chief of the army and the president, and our guy. However, he has been negotiating because he's running for president again, and he's not exactly legal according to Pakistani law, now that that's ever stopped a military dictator of Pakistan before. But Pakistan does have elections. Its background is as a British colony, but it's similar to India, and India is completely run by elections and is the largest democracy in the world. Pakistan has the trappings of democracy. Those trappings have been reduced since Musharraf took over. Basically, there was an elected prime minister. His name was Sharif, and he was head of the Muslim Party. I think it was the Pakistan Muslim Party, but I could be wrong. Could be the Muslim Alliance. And he split off of that party. He was actually the head of the military under him. Threw him out for corruption and took over. And about a year later, there was a 9/11, and all that happened, and we went into Afghanistan. And basically, he found himself being subsidized by the United States to the tune of $1 billion in arms. And Pakistan is the worst enemy of India. They've had 3 wars. And the very northern part of India over here in Kashmir is a Muslim area. However, it had a Hindu Raja and was given to India when Britain split India back up. Britain in 1947 separated Pakistan as a Muslim country from India as a primarily, even though there are Muslims that live there, as a primarily Hindu country, and separated the two. So that happened in 1947. There were riots. 500,000 people were killed. 10 to 20 million refugees. The descendants of those refugees probably are in the 20 to 30 million range, possibly more. So it's a bigger refugee situation than even Palestine and Israel. So a lot has happened. There's been a lot of water under the bridge. But basically, the party of the founders of Pakistan, Al Jinnah was the founder, but very, very soon Bhutto had taken over. And he was the head of the Pakistan People's Party, PPP. And his daughter is Benazir Bhutto. And Benazir Bhutto was a prime minister twice in the history of Pakistan. And on both occasions she was overthrown. And her #1 rival was Sharif, who was an ex-general, and he was overthrown twice. So basically everybody who gets elected in Pakistan gets overthrown sooner or later. So Bhutto was charged with corruption, as was Sharif. If they ever stepped foot in Pakistan again, they'd be thrown in jail and charged with corruption. So Bhutto made a deal with Musharraf that Musharraf could run again for president. She would be prime minister as head of the largest party in parliament. But Musharraf would have to give up his post as the chief of the army. And the chief of the army is the real powerful post. So he's giving that post to the head of the Secret Service there, a guy who has been at his side for years as deputy when he was chief of the army, and he's going to run for president. The catch to the whole thing is now the Supreme Court, and today the Supreme Court of Pakistan did not stop the election, but announced that because of last-minute challenges to Musharraf's right to succeed himself, because there's about a 99.897% chance that he's going to get reelected. And the presidency, by the way, is reelected by the parliament, especially now that the parliament has Bhutto's party on his side now, that he's going to get reelected, and when he gets reelected, then he has to give up his position as the chief of the army, as the main army general, commander of the army, I guess. So we'll see whether that happens. That's very important to us because there was a situation in Pakistan where the head of Pakistan, there was a mosque, they're called the Red Mosque, and the Red Mosque was basically a Taliban-type outfit. And they were going around the capital of Pakistan, which is right about there. It's called Islamabad. And they were rounding up loose women or whatever they were doing, and they were beating them and killing them and taking them hostage. Well, they made a mistake. They was taken over by these radicals, this Red Mosque, right near the presidential palace. And they had captured a bunch of Chinese women, and Pakistan's biggest backer is America, but its second biggest backer is China, because China is a rival, on economic and military rival in Asia against India. So Pakistan is India's worst enemy. The enemies of our enemies are friends. So China is also a supporter of Pakistan. So capturing these Chinese women was a big mistake for these folks because Musharraf sent his army, surrounded this mosque, and in the mosque were about 1,000 radical Al-Qaeda-like fighters. And Musharraf wiped them out. There were a couple hundred people killed. He didn't care whether it was a mosque or not. As a result, an agreement that he had with the, right here along the border of Pakistan, North Waziristan, South Waziristan, which I'm pointing to right here. Here's Afghanistan over here, are what they call the tribal areas. These are Pushtun tribal tribes. And the Pashtuns, of course, are the largest ethnic group in Afghanistan itself. And for the most part, the Taliban, who are the people that we overthrew and the people that were allied with Al-Qaeda before 2001, when we overthrew them, a lot of their support is in this tribal area. And that's where people think that the heads of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden and Zawahiri are, who are actually Arabs from Saudi Arabia. Or Osama bin Laden's from Saudi Arabia, and Zawahiri, the number 2 guy, is from Egypt. So basically, Musharraf sent an army over to this tribal area, and right after this Red Mosque incident, and the army hasn't done very good. However, that's caused the Taliban, which was really making a lot of gains in Afghanistan, to have a two-front war now. They had captured 400 of the Pakistani soldiers in the first round of fighting between Musharraf's army and these Talibans, but they also tried to kill Musharraf, which is probably not a smart idea unless you succeed. And Musharraf really wants to get rid of him now. So if Musharraf gets reelected, Taliban and Al-Qaeda could be in real trouble in Waziristan because Pakistan, people don't realize it, has 125 million people. They can raise an army of over 1 million. Whether that army is any good, India has defeated it over and over again, that's another story, but that's a lot of people for a very small Taliban to be able to fight off. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be very important for the war against terror, and that's why I wanted to bring it up while I was there. Now, we're going to turn the whole Earth around. Here's the water hemisphere, and here's America. Here is Washington, and we're right over here in Tucson, Arizona. And right down here is Venezuela. And Venezuela is the home of my Betmar, my personal Betmar, who, of course, is Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez calls himself a Bolivarian populist. He's been kind of running a slow takeover of Venezuela with a number of elections and a number of referenda and militia and nationalizing industries one by one. He's finally taken over the government 100% just in the last year. When he got reelected the third time, he had the Constitution changed, and the one thing in the Constitution that he didn't like is that there was a limitation how many times Chavez could run for president. And he got rid of that. And so basically he has declared himself, right after he got reelected, he declared that he could rule by decree. And right after that, one of his decrees was to take over the last two independent media chains, especially the TV station, which goes all the way back to the 50s, that is very, very famous for producing most of the soap operas in the Latin world. And he took over that particular station. That was just earlier this year, and I've done shows about it. And since then, he's basically changed the Constitution to declare himself re-electable for life. And since he controls the media, since he controls all the oil industry, since he's basically brought everything into his own hands, he's going to win any election that there is. And because he's going to win any election that there is, he is dictator of Venezuela and president for life, just like his mentor, Fidel Castro, who he's visited at Fidel Castro's sickbed. So what does that mean for America? Well, first of all, we import 1.5 million barrels a day of oil from Venezuela. That is, I think, either the third or the fourth largest import of oil to America from any countries in the world. Number one right now is Canada. Number two is Mexico. Number three, or at least tied with either 3 or 4, is Hugo Chavez's Venezuela, and then comes Saudi Arabia. And we also get a lot of oil from Nigeria. Nigeria may have supplanted Saudi Arabia. I'm going to have to check that. So those are the places that we import oil. Why do we import oil from somebody who's our declared enemy, who's called us imperialists, come to the UN, called our president devil and a diablo? You know, we have no compunction to declare a boycott of all kinds of small countries and even some large ones if they mess with us, basically, but not Venezuela. Why? Well, one of the reasons is 2002, there was a crisis in Venezuela over the oil industry. Basically, the private oil industry locked out a union that was controlled by Chavez. And there was Chavez countered with a strike, and there was a massive strike against the government in 2002. Chavez's government almost fell, and the guy, one of the generals, tried to take it over, but Bush blinked. He wouldn't support the guy, and Chavez took over the next day and nationalized PVDSA, and that is the Petrolera de Venezuela. And that's the Venezuelan oil company. Now, that oil company had already bought and controlled completely CITGO. And CITGO is a major oil company with lots and lots of gas stations convenience stores all over the Northwest and Florida. And they were also the supplier of oil to 7-Eleven, Southland Company. Southland is all over California and the Southwest and Texas. So that's basically what the story was. CITGO is headquartered in Texas. Where else? It was an American oil company, and now is completely beholden to Chavez. Well, I just happened to be in a tire shop. No, that wasn't a tire shop. It was a battery store, getting my battery replaced. Of course, that's another story. Dead battery, got a jump, managed to make it to the battery store, and the guy is sitting there with a email that says, boycott CITGO. It's owned by Chavez, an avowed enemy of the United States. And I talked with the guy behind the counter, and he says, oh yeah, there's a campaign to boycott CITGO. Well, there was a campaign to boycott CITGO about a year ago after Chavez went to the General Assembly. Once a year, the General Assembly has heads of state come in. They open the General Assembly officially, and heads of state from all over the world, from every ideology, make a speech. And at that time, Chavez came in, declared the United States a world hegemon that was trying to imperialize the entire earth, and called Bush personally, while in the United States, our president, Diablo, a devil. And basically implied that America was full of it, and he was going to spit in our face right there while he was on our soil. Well, he just happens to own CITGO, and CITGO has hundreds of gas stations all up and down the coast. And what happened was a guy in Florida said, I've had enough, I'm organizing a boycott. And there was a boycott in Florida. Now, Florida, by the way, the largest Hispanic group in Florida, also very, very highly Republican. And of course, Florida is a swing state. So everybody in Florida, every vote in Florida is important. So this Cuban-American group, about 1 million Cuban exiles, very, very powerful locally, very, very anti-Castro. And about the same time, Castro got sick, and Hugo Chavez flew into Cuba, told the Cubans that he was going to give them $1 billion a year in aid, basically replacing all the aid that the old Soviet Union had. The communist regime was foundering, and found new life mainly because of these subsidies. And Castro, of course, lived. He had some kind of stomach ailment. We don't know exactly what, because they never said. There was cancer or colon, bleeding from the colon or what. Nobody really knows. But he almost died, and Hugo Chavez visited him at his sickbed, and Castro gave him his blessing as being basically the next Castro. This upset the Cuban Americans, and the Cuban Americans took this idea of boycotting CITGO really, really seriously. Now, it just happens that in Florida, and let's see if I can expand it. No. Next time I'll fix the picture so that I can get to the picture. In fact, I'm going to turn away just for a second, and I'm going to fix it right here. Okay, I'm going to continue to talk while I do this. So I'm going to make Florida a little bit bigger. There it is, right over my shoulder. Stop it. And Florida has a very famous interstate, Interstate 95, and it has some very big state highways. And Florida has made a deal so that all of the gas stations up and down the main highways of Florida, guess what they are? They're CITGO. The Floridians, especially the Cuban Americans, are so angry that the supporter of Castro owns the oil company whose gas stations are up and down Florida's highways, that they went to the governor and they said, what are you going to do about it? They said, we are boycotting CITGO. We want CITGO out of business. and we don't want to ever see a CITGO again. 7-Eleven, which had basically, just like Circle K has a little gas station in front of every Circle K, well, 7-Eleven had their little gas station in front of every 7-Eleven in the country was CITGO. They had a special deal with CITGO. They immediately canceled that deal under political pressure. They said, we don't want CITGO over there. We want to take down all the CITGO signs. There's a Boycott CITGO.com. If you go to it, you'll see all these signs, you know, these CITGO gas stations where they're taking the sign down. They're putting a chevron. They have a plastic banner which they put over their CITGO sign that says Chevron in some places. But the most interesting thing about it was what the state of Florida did, because Florida couldn't break their contract with CITGO because they had a contract to keep these CITGO gas stations along Highway 95 and these other big state highways until December of '08. They can't break a contract. So what they did is they put signs at every outturn where the CITGO gas station was. And you know how especially in the east, I don't know if anybody's been there, but because they're toll roads for the most part, and I don't think the interstate's a toll road, there's a gas station and a little store and a restaurant right there on the highway where you can just pull off the highway and go to it. It's like a rest stop. They have those in Europe as well. And usually there's a Hardee's in there and a place to go to the bathroom and a big gas station on both sides of the freeway or the interstate. And there's a CITGO. So the state of Florida actually put up signs and said, if you get off this exit, you can find a gas station that's not CITGO. And consequently, CITGO's been hurt a little bit, not tremendously, but in Florida quite a bit. And some other states, some of the CITGO gas stations that were privately owned basically took the CITGO signs down and became Chevrons or Exxons or whatever. But now they're changing their name to Petroleum Express or Petro Express. Now, I've had different articles. One article says that Petro Express is just a wholesaler and that's a whole different company that was just distributing Venezuelan oil, Venezuelan gas. Others said that it's a wholly owned subsidiary of CITGO and therefore is owned by Hugo Chavez itself. I'm not sure. But the Boycott CITGO people say that Petro Express is CITGO and it is owned by Hugo Chavez and they want to boycott them too. So anybody, I don't know the real answer. I'm going to keep researching it to find out who really owns Petro Express, but I suspect, or at least the Boycott CITGO people think that that is just CITGO and that's really owned by Chavez. That's just a dodge to try to make it look like, well, we're not CITGO anymore, because basically over here in Tucson we haven't really heard that much, but I have a feeling that this is going to get to be bigger and that there's going to be a big thing about it. So who knows what's going to happen? I don't really know, but I believe that this is very, very significant. I would like anybody who's within hearing of my voice to boycott CITGO. There's a couple CITGOs in Tucson over here, and never go to them, never do business with them, because they are owned by an avowed enemy of the United States itself, the American people, and our American system and our American way of life. I don't like the idea that the Marxists say of we will hang you and you will sell us the rope, and that's basically what we're doing by buying CITGO gas. Now there is a 7-Eleven, I know, I think it's on Alvernon, that had a CITGO sign in front of it. 7-Eleven has supposedly cut ties with CITGO, so I don't know if they did or not. My name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. I think that my clock is off by a minute, so I'm going to keep on talking for one more minute. And if I didn't do it right, then you just saw it end just there. So basically where I'm at is boycott CITGO, and That's what you need to do, and I think it'll be good for this country. And I think it'll be a good lesson for the oil industry to say, look, people are mad. They're not going to take it anymore, just like in the movie Network. And, you know, you guys are gouging us, and we're going to pick out the worst offender in the oil industry. The worst offender is an oil company that's actually owned by an enemy of the United States, and that is CITGO. So everybody boycott CITGO. If there's ever a demonstration against it, and I don't know if there will, join it. And that's basically my position. Thank you very much. My name is Reed Silber, and the name of the show is Fed Pride.